everyone. Today is Sunday, August 11th, and I'm posting these videos as a therapeutic journal or diary of my recovery from watching my little brother with Down syndrome, Paul Kierans, be killed by combination of the British Columbia government, Burnaby Hospital, and my sister, a nun from Ontario. I just finished going to Mass and I'm trying to get my 10,000 steps in. I'm proud to say that yesterday I did the Coquitlam Crunch, which is a hike up Mount Eagle Mountain in Coquitlam. It's 260 meters elevation straight up. And when I got near the top, there were young men running up the trail. And I'm sure they thought, what the hell is this little old lady doing so high? All of my hikes up and down Blue Mountain, where I live in Coquitlam, have paid off. Trying to it's a way of coping therapeutically, physically, with the trauma of losing my little brother under the most horrific of circumstances. So I don't know if people in Canada know, or from other places know, that in 2015, Canada changed the law so that overturned a Supreme Court of Canada precedent against medical killing of people who were dying. And Canada has rapidly expanded the kinds of people it will pay regular doctors and nurses to kill with the slightest of evidence. When I was practicing as a lawyer, it usually took about a year for a divorce to go through. And there was a waiting period of at least a year. And now killing someone is seen as a form of therapy, which in the history of humanity, killing has never been considered a form of therapy, and it goes against the Hippocratic Oath. So what happened with my little brother is that when I complained about fraudulent and forged power of attorney, that my brother's group home, L'Arche, L''ARCHE, created secretly to appoint my 81-year-old nun sister in 4,000 kilometers away in North Bay, Ontario, as my brother's guardian in order to give him secretly the COVID-19 shot. When I complained about that, they terminated my visits with him after our visiting for 60 years. I mean, we grew up together, and I cared for him at my home on weekends for 10 years until I became disabled myself with a head injury and with lupus, and I had a heart attack. But Paul and I, as you can see from the photos that I posted, I've taken him to Newfoundland twice. I've taken him to Seattle. I used to take him to the Peony every year. But anyways, so for 588 days, my sister, the evil nun, and the group home conspired to isolate and confine Paul. And I used to go to the British Columbia government office every single business day, dropping off a letter asking for a meeting to complain about the abuse. And they never met with me, not once. And in all of that time, they allowed one 1-hour meeting in the Christmas of 2023. So it's truly an evil government. And you may think this is never going to happen to you because you don't have a relative who's disabled. You don't have a relative who has Down syndrome. But they will find a way to subjugate your rights too. I never dreamed, as a person who went to law school, I was trained as a psychologist for the government. I worked as a federal prosecutor. I practiced law as a family lawyer for 16 years. I never dreamed that this government, the government of British Columbia, would be able to breach my brother's and my civil rights and our rights to visit with each other. We went before one judge when I tried to restore the visits, and she said, Ms. Walker relies on some right of these parties to associate with each other. Like she never read the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And then when Paul allegedly had a heart attack on April 13th of 2024, after 588 days of isolation, I was his only visitor. So when they cut me off, he cut off all his visitors. I found out 2 days later that he had had a stroke, and I went and visited him, and he was recovering. I watched him recover. I mean, I know him probably better, without a doubt, better than anybody else on earth, and I could see that he was recovering. Then when my sister and I were told that she was being investigated, and there was an investigation into the fraudulent and forged power of attorney, he was dead within a day. And I went to court and I tried to ask that the Minister of Children and Family Affairs be appointed his guardian, Sheila Malcolmson. But I didn't, there wasn't enough time to get before a judge, and he was dead. When I got back from court to the hospital, I walked into the hospital room. I was allowed 10-minute visit once a day, although I stayed at the hospital 10 to 12 hours a day. And when I walked in the room, the evil nun, without looking me in the eye, I know her tricks. I know when she's, what she was up to. She said, "Say goodbye to Paul, he's dying." I was allowed 10 minutes. Then the next day, I got an email saying, "Paul's died. We'll hold his body till 2 o'clock so you can come and look at it." She's the single most evil person I've ever personally met, but she was allowed to do that by the British Columbia government and the Canadian government. It was the most helpless feeling. Like everything I've done in my life was to try and protect the rights of disabled and vulnerable people. And I was totally thwarted by the British Columbia New Democratic Party government. But I can't say that any other government, now that I think about it, the Conservative government or the Liberal BC United government would have done any different. Canada has sunk to a depth that it's below anything else in the rest of the world. So what I believe happened is when the last time I saw my brother, they had removed his ventilator, they removed his catheter, and he had been sedated to death. He was very fragile, but he was recovering from the stroke, as most people who experience strokes now do. It's medical malpractice if you've got a patient die from a stroke in this day and age, particularly a patient that's held in a government facility. But I felt so helpless. I was doing everything legally by the book, and I just wanted to scream. So I've been caught up in watching the American politics. And all I can say is that the leftist, liberal, socialist commies are, if they have their way, like Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, if they have their way, they're going to bring euthanasia to the United States, and they'll start killing your vulnerable people, your vulnerable loved ones. And all I can say is, if you don't think it could happen to you, give your head a shake. I never dreamed it would happen to somebody like me. I knew the system probably as well or better than anyone. I went to the Supreme Court of Canada twice, and I still couldn't save my little brother from being killed unlawfully, I believe. And I'm still fighting for justice. Paul, I miss you so much. Every day I think of, fun things that we could do. But hopefully I'm going to change the law so that guardians will not be able to isolate and confine incapable adults like you ever again. And this medical assistance in dying people will go to prison for conducting medical assistance and dying, like they used to for the vast majority of my lifetime. You're not doing anybody any favors by killing them. We got along without killing people for the existence of humanity. We don't need to start it in the last 10 years, 9 years. Anyways, that's all I had to say for today. Paul, I miss you so much. I hope you're having fun in heaven, dear. Take care, everyone, and fight the good fight.